Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending our webinar today. My name is Patricia Dugan. I am representing Traefik, created by Containus. And today we have a really cool webinar with Aaron Ogle of RocketChat. First, I wanted to tell you a couple things. I'd like to start by paying homage to Grumpy Cat, who has passed away. If you don't know who Grumpy Cat is, he was very important to many of us as a representative of those of us who get grumpy sometimes. So rest in peace, Grumpy Cat. And now maybe we can find a happy puppy as an alternative. So we're going to head into this meetup today. What online Traefik meetups are 45-minute sessions. They begin with me telling you hello. And then we move on to our speaker of the day, who will share with you how they're using Traefik to solve interesting technical problems or challenges. And so you will enjoy today's session. What's going to happen is I will put in the chat box a few interesting things for you. One is an invitation to our Traefik EE webinar in June. One is an article by Holiday Check about using Canary releases. And the third thing I want to share with you is a link to our next online Traefik meetup, which is going to be also dope. It's called, it's by Colin Dembowski, and it's Container DevOps with Azure DevOps and Traefik. And he is a super DevOps dude with container expertise, so you should like that. In the chat box, we encourage you please to enter all of your questions. We'll accept them, and then later at the end of the session, we will go ahead and have answer the questions with Aaron and ask them that, and then we'll answer it during the session. Let's see, this will be recorded, this will be shared on YouTube, and I welcome you to email me, ping us at Traefik, Twitter, online, and yeah, so that's about it. I'm super thankful you're here. We are super thankful you're here. Traefik loves you. And I'm going to pass the mic now to our friend Aaron Ogle of RocketChat. Take it away.
All right, good morning. Let me share my screen here so we can get started. All right, looks like it's sharing. Cool. Sorry, what's that?
It looks good.
Okay, awesome. So my name is Aaron Ogle. I am the lead cloud architect at RocketChat. And today I'm going to talk about how RocketChat uses Traefik, and then we're going to do a short little demo of how you can deploy Traefik and RocketChat. So we're just going to kind of quickly go over what is RocketChat, and then kind of go into some details of how we use RocketChat in the demo. So, all right. So before we started using Traefik, our infrastructure was kind of did like a quick hackathon to put our infrastructure together, and we were using a tool called Apache that was doing our load balancing. We were using Tutum, which is now, it was bought by Docker Cloud, or Docker, branded Docker Cloud, and then they actually retired that product. And of course, a key component of our infrastructure is Mongo. And then we had a little launcher service that would actually communicate with Apache to actually do it would inject a record into Redis, and then it also talked to Tutum. And Tutum is what actually did the starting of RocketChat, hooking it up to Mongo, and etc. So after that, so we actually were looking to actually scale our infrastructure out. That kind of infrastructure was kind of limited. So we wanted to kind of branch out, find something a little bit more efficient. So we were looking for another load balancer, one that we didn't have to, have a third party database to store our records in, and we didn't also have to, they had a weird deal where you had to actually like cause a reload and it would cause like a very brief lapse in connectivity. So we were trying to find something way more efficient than that. We're big fans of Kubernetes. You know, we watched it from early days, and we come across Traefik, which was it was perfect because it actually integrated directly with Kubernetes, so we could actually easily move our workload to Kubernetes, and then Traefik would just magically handle everything. So we moved to this Traefik-based flow. So Traefik, we have several clusters now, and Traefik sits at the front of all of them. We have you know, Mongo clusters, multiple of them, and then we have a little program we call Fleet Command that talks to Kubernetes to do everything. Should I go next? Oh, here it is. So Fleet Command, just kind of quick rundown. So it assigns DNS if it's necessary. Provisions ingress records. We use the annotation Kubernetes ingress Traefik, just because in a lot of environments, like EKS, GKE, they actually ship with a ingress provider out of the box. So by using this annotation, we ensure that Traefik is the one that actually picks it up. I know in GKE, it's kind of tricky to turn off theirs. So we just kind of started this as a practice. Fleet Command actually also provisions the deployment and service. So I think in total, we actually throw in 3 objects into Kubernetes, the ingress, service, and deployment. And then we have some other little pieces that it you know, hooks up just for making that out of the box experience. So Traefik actually handles all of the traffic for our infrastructure. So not only our cloud offering, but all of the services that we offer, all the internal tooling that we use. It handles absolutely all traffic. Some important things that Traefik brought to us was that you could actually use it across all providers. So we're not limited to any certain provider. We're not a fan of vendor lock-in. We go to great lengths to avoid it sometimes. So it works across GKE, EKS, AKS, bare metal, etc. And a neat thing about this is we actually use this. We migrated from GKE to EKS, and Traefik played an important role in this. We were able to actually migrate smoothly. The customers weren't even aware it happened. We were able to just very seamlessly move our traffic across. Traffic's very fast. It has metrics endpoint out of the box that you can enable. And so we scraped that with Prometheus. Let's Encrypt. This is amazing. We're able to allow customers to have custom domains, and Traefik does all of the handling of that for us. It's open source. We're an open source project. We like to use other open source projects. It's Golang. This is not necessarily like a company important thing, but for me it was very important because I'm a big fan of Golang. And if there's something that happens, I want to be able to actually get into the code and help contribute back fixes. I seem to have actually skipped the slide about what RocketChat is. Let me go back to that. So we're doing this a lot out of order. How we use it. Now, what is RocketChat? Sorry about that. Just quick, what is RocketChat? So RocketChat's an open source team collaboration platform. We integrate into existing identity providers like SAML, OAuth, CAS, LDAP. We have end-to-end encryption, and it's extremely customizable, open source, like I mentioned. And just kind of a highlight, we recently introduced our 1.0, and we added federation and threads, so you can actually communicate with other RocketChat instances from your own. So you could join a channel in somebody else's instance. This makes great for cross-company communication. All right, after that little mess up. So what we're going to quickly demo is deploying RocketChat into an EKS cluster using Helm, RocketChat and Traefik. And we're going to have Traefik actually handle the Let's Encrypt certificates for us. So it'll automatically have Let's Encrypt or SSL enabled. Things I've done prior to this is, so we have an AWS account, of course. We had to go install the CLI, and then we use the EKS CTL. So this makes it super easy to spin up a Kubernetes cluster with EKS. And then, of course, Helm, and then we initialized Helm. So I'll actually give a little, show you what commands I actually used. So here we actually used the create EKS CTL create cluster. This took about 30 minutes for me or so. And then we had to install Helm. So kind of an important step that I had to do is, so out of the box, EKS comes with RBAC enabled. So for Helm, you have to actually provide or create a role for it to use. So I created this. Actually, I think it's linked in their documentation. So there's this this role. So we actually apply that. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in there. I've already done this beforehand, but I'm going to go ahead and do it again. Cool. So yeah, you can see it's unchanged. And then you actually initialize the tiller. And important piece of this is you have to actually specify the service account. So the service account here is what you provide here. And I'm not going to run that. It's we've already done that. So next we want to actually get Traefik up and running. So to do this, we use the Helm chart. Makes this super quick and easy. So a couple of important things to note about this. So we actually set the namespace for one. So we set it to the kube system. I believe you can set it at other places, but this is a great place to set it. We turn RBAC enabled to true, so it'll actually provision its own RBAC roles, and it'll actually make use of those. Otherwise, if you don't, it will not be able to observe for new ingress records coming up. We also use SSL enabled, so this is going to allow it to actually, like, it'll enable the entry point, the HTTPS endpoint. And then enforced, SSL enforced will actually do a redirect. So it's going to take, and if you hit port 80, it's going to actually redirect you over to HTTPS. And so the Acme enabled here, this is going to allow the Let's Encrypt to be generated. And then couple other important flags that you need to set alongside that is the Acme staging to false. So by default, it actually is set to true. You might, if you're not familiar with this, you might actually leave that to true just to test it and then go back and change it. But setting it to false will actually allow it to get a valid HTTP certificate. Also, then looks like the Helm chart actually uses an old deprecated way for doing Let's Encrypt. So you actually need to provide the new way. So you need to set TLS APL. So they actually do the negotiation for the certificate over TLS. And then lastly, there's the Acme email. And I've actually set that an environment variable before, just so that I don't share that here. So I'm gonna go ahead and have that Helm install that chart for me. Okay, so it's inserted it. So I'm going to go and get the service. So in EKS, because we created a load balancer service, it actually goes and talks to the ELB, gets an ELB address, and then assigns it here. So this address here is actually going to hit our Traefik instance. So I've got a little, at this step, normally you go to your DNS provider, you would create a CNAME for whatever address you want to use, and you would set it to the Traefik endpoint here. So I create a little tool just so I didn't have to go and show you guys all of the messy DNS records. So I'm going to see Traefik live demo.rocket.chat, and we're going to point to this. So it goes out to Route 53, and this is creating a CNAME pointing to our ELB address. So I'm gonna give this a couple of, usually takes about a minute. It's actually waiting on a change set to come back. I've skipped this a couple times and before this, and it actually, it wasn't fully propagated. So giving it a few minutes is actually a good idea. Come on. Well, come on here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm not gonna wait on that. It should be propagated. So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a quick check. Yeah, so it is actually, at least it's propagated for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with the next step then. So next we're gonna actually install the RocketChat Helm chart. So kind of like with the Traefik, we set a few variables. So we're going to actually set the Mongo root password. So this is a password that you'll likely want to set yourself if you ever need to actually get into the Mongo to make any kind of changes. Maybe you want to do a dump, or you want to, any sort of maintenance type activity. You're going to want to know this password. If you don't set it, it actually, I think by default generates one, which is not good for anybody, because if you don't, if it's not a password you're going to remember, then well, it's not that useful. So then you set the username, the MongoDB username, and the password. So these, I believe, also can be auto-generated, but I do like to be verbose and also just what it is. We also set ingress enabled to true. So what this is important, because this is actually going to make sure that the ingress is actually inserted. And we also set the host equals Traefik live demo. So this is the address we've chosen. And this is going to actually set it inside RocketChat, as well as it sets the for the ingress. And lastly, we set the ingress annotation. And so much like in the slide, how I said we usually pass the class, we do that here. And that's, again, to make sure that Traefik is the one that picks up that ingress and not EKS defaults. Go ahead and actually insert that chart. Okay, so it's going to start actually spinning up the resources for this. So I'm going to watch those come out. So RocketChat actually, since it uses Mongo, recently, I believe it was in 1.0, it now requires a Mongo replica set. And the Mongo chart, when you do a replica set, it actually does a primary, a secondary, and an arbiter. So all three of those are spinning up. Takes it a little bit. They all spin up. They look for another, they look for the replica set, and they try to join. And then while it's happening, RocketChat's actually trying to start up. That's why you're seeing some errors here. It's trying to start up and join, talk to that replica set. The replica set's not actually ready. So it'll crash a couple times. Okay, it looks like these three are up. We'll just hop inside there and we'll take a quick look. So we're actually hopping into the primary container and looking. So it looks like all of the, requires authentication, which is fine. It says it's primary here, so the replica set is actually initialized. And it looks like RocketChat is on its way up now. Great. Looks like it should actually be up. So here's the moment of truth. Ah, perfect. Had a couple times where this didn't work. So this is so it actually has a valid certificate and provided by Let's Encrypt. So here you have a fully running RocketChat instance. I'm gonna go ahead and I guess just quickly run through this just so you can see it fully up and running. So this is just the setup wizard when you actually set up the instance. I want to set it, see Traefik 5 demo, and I guess we'll just call this public. So some of the services that I was talking about earlier that we actually that we use Traefik in front of. So we actually have the push gateway, live chat, all these. So in this step, when you're actually registering, you're using some of those services that are actually going through Traefik, which is kind of cool. And there we go, a fully running RocketChat with HTTPS, and yeah, it all happened. Well, I think that was way quicker than I intended, but yeah, very quick. All right. So I went a little faster than I intended, but if you want more information about RocketChat, you can visit our website. Also on their website, we have a community forum. We run an open RocketChat server, so like our community server. So if you want to join, and there's a lot of people there that provide help, things of that nature. And I'm also on there, so you can. My username is down here in the right corner. So if you want to, get a hold of me on that, you have more questions about how exactly we're using Traefik, definitely contact me there.
Right on. Yeah, I have a couple of questions. First, could you take us through a little bit more on like the size of your deployments that you're using Traefik on? I think you told me 50 nodes or something.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about that.
That's
yes.
Okay. A lot to remember.
We're using, like I mentioned, we're using across 3 different clusters. And so across all 3 clusters, we're using, I think, a total of about 50 or so nodes. And on those, we have hundreds, I think like 1,000, some actual like customer deployments running. So, and all of those are being handled by Traefik. So.
Sweet. Okay, cool. And Matt Barrio, thank you for your cool question. He asked, can you talk a little bit about the, sorry, cannot read. Can you talk a little bit about the challenges around scaling and any problems you've run into with Traefik? Ooh, he wants to know the problems.
Nice. So we had we had a little bit of an issue kind of early on with Kubernetes and Traefik, but it wasn't really Trafik's problem necessarily. So we, early on, we were just like we had with GKE, so we were GKE before. So we actually were just kind of like saying, okay, here, our traffic's running somewhere in our cluster, go for it. And so it would go through and try to find where traffic is running. So we had, I think at that time, like 20 nodes, and traffic was running, I think, on 4 of those nodes. And so it was trying multiple nodes. And so kind of an early lesson we learned was, hey, and we actually use edge nodes. So we tag edge nodes, and edge nodes are the ones that traffic run on specifically. And then, so that makes the targets smaller. It can run health checks more efficiently. And so it only hits where traffic's running, and then traffic's able to distribute the traffic internally. So that was kind of an early lesson we learned, that when we try to actually scale out, if you just let traffic just kind of randomly go throughout your cluster, it's not good. But if you have those edge nodes, it definitely helps a lot.
Cool. Matt, did this answer everything, or do you have more questions around this, or anyone around edge nodes? And if not, I have a question which I hope is going to position everyone okay, but it's around version 2 of Traefik. Are you using it? Have you used it yet?
So sorry, I've been watching the developments, and I have not used it yet, but I am excited. I am excited for it. I'm also kind of excited for the enterprise version. Right now, we actually, I didn't really go into this, but we actually have separate traffic running just for custom DNS, because we can't, you have to persist to like a file store, or you have to persist to like an etcd or some kind of cluster like that. And we didn't want to maintain one of those. So we actually have a small traffic instance running just for custom DNS so that it can write to disk. So we're very excited for that. That way we can run it across the entire cluster.
Thanks, man. Are you using our free early access yet, or you haven't had time to tap into it?
So I have played around with it some, but I'm kind of waiting. We're waiting until it actually, I guess, fully goes live, so we can actually try to roll it out.
Cool. Sorry, I'm not sorry. I'm multitasking. Okay, awesome. I'd love to hear that. We're excited, and the developers have put so much energy into Enterprise Edition and V2. So we want to work with you to make it the best. What are you using, or what do you like about Prometheus and are you using Jaeger for tracing and metrics?
So we're using Prometheus across our entire cluster. So all of our services are being monitored by Prometheus. And so then we consume that in Grafana, and actually are able to have all of our metrics together. Most of our applications, actually, we don't make use of that much tracing yet. On our service cluster, we most likely will start to, but in our deployments, like our customer deployments, we don't use tracing there. But it is something I'm looking at, especially for our services.
Okay, I asked because a lot of people have said that's what they love about us. So is tracing. I see that Cohen says something here, and I'm not sure it's a question, but I'll read it to you, and maybe you could just bounce off it. I'm running Traefik Community Edition on ANS EKE. I think that's ANS EKE. But we found that the performance issue, some responses are instantaneous, but some with significant delay. I think this might be a statement asking, do you experience the same thing?
I have not. That may be a case, though, where actually tagging, like setting an edge node, might be of use, because if the traffic does go into a node that doesn't have traffic running on it, it will have to route that inside the cluster to the Traefik instance. It's also, depending on the load, you may have to actually scale out your traffic.
Cool. So anyone else in the room, do you have any questions? I mean, I think for me, I wanted to talk about Kubernetes more, so we spoke about that, and then we covered the questions that came in. Love to hear more now, unless we hear from you soon, we will go ahead and wrap this up. And then I will welcome you again to Colin's meetup coming up on the 13th. And I'm really excited. Colin is like, has a really cool vibe and clearly is a container dude. So we should have a fun time there. Aaron, anything you want us to know about like RocketChat and working at RocketChat?
It's great. It's a great company. Definitely, we have some job openings. So if you are interested, definitely head over to our website. We have, I think, a little careers page down at the bottom. So if you're interested in working, definitely apply. We do have open positions, but we're trying to revolutionize chat. So we have all kinds of exciting things coming. And our 1.0 just came out, and I think that the Federation's one of the most exciting things for me. It's really cool to be able to talk across. I have it on my infrastructure, you have it on your infrastructure, and then we can talk to each other. It's really cool.
And speaking of talking to each other, I am on Twitter, Patricia_Dugan. Aaron's on Twitter at GeekGoneCrazy, which he is not hiding anything there.
Definitely not hiding anything.
And then, of course, Traefik is at Traefik. So I think that's all for me. And Aaron, do you have any parting words? Or thanks to Rajesh for the feedback saying the live session was good. We appreciate it. Are we ready to wrap, everyone?
I'm ready if you are.
All right, everyone, have a wonderful week, and we will see you soon. Fist bump to the peeps. All right, peace out. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.